Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. He's an industry thought leader, a mortgage technology evangelist. He's an expert at delivering innovation to our industry. Please help me welcome to the show David Wieczorek, Director of Product at Meridian Link. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. My pleasure being here today.
Well, it is great to have you. You have a wealth of knowledge and expertise. Before we start diving into all things tech and fintech and everything, let's tell our listeners a little bit about your background, because you really have a lot of expertise in financial services and delivering innovation.
Sure. So, I went to UCLA, studied physics and mathematics. So I'm a total science geek. Never thought I'd end up in the mortgage industry, but so like so many people, once you get in, you become sort of a unicorn and you never really get out. And really, I consider one of my many blessings in life was to have been hired by Meridian Link, fresh out of college, back in early 2007. I was just so fortunate to end up with such a great company. Back then, we started with about 50 employees, and I've been a part of an amazing growth trajectory of this business all the way up past 750 employees. And people had always told me that, you need to switch jobs every 2 or 3 years. That's how you progress in your career. And I just never felt like I needed to do that with Meridian Link, because as the company grew, they kept creating more and more opportunities for me. And so I've worn a lot of hats with the organization over the years. I started off as a rules and automation engineer for our product and pricing engine. And then after a few years, ended up leading that team. And then the co-founder actually gave me an awesome opportunity to redesign our product and pricing engine from the ground up.
Wow.
And he gave me about a year to do that. It was incredible. Without any experience, he gave me the dev team basically for a year. I did a ton of user interviews with our customers, figuring out what they want, what they need. And I just went to town, and I had so much fun doing it. I was putting in 12, 14-hour days, and it honestly just didn't feel like work at the time. And so I knew at that moment that I had found my calling, my passion. And so ever since then, I've been part of the product org at Meridian Link. And for the past 8 years, I've been fortunate enough to actually lead up the division as director of product.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, you have a wealth of knowledge. And I also understand, congratulations in order. You were just recently named a top 40 under 40. Tell me a little bit about that award and designation.
Well, that's just a huge honor. And I'm just so grateful that I ended up at Meridian Link, a company that gave me so many opportunities over the years. For me, I put in a lot of hard work too. But really, I feel fortunate to have been with such a great company with a ton of amazing mentors over the years as well. So it feels incredible to be awarded that designation, that honor.
Well, congratulations once again on that front. So let's talk a little bit about this year. Let's apply technology to it. So we've heard over and over, okay, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year. Well, the good news is there's only a week or two left. So we won't hear any more complaining about it's been a tough year. There has been some pain. I don't want to minimize that. The industry has had to go through a lot of changes. So how do you see, you've got a wonderful track record and history in this industry. So how have you seen technology change and evolve? And how has that evolution helped lenders address today's market conditions?
Sure. So yeah, technology has really changed over the years. And I think, looking back many, many years ago, you had a lot of solutions that were kind of disparate technology solutions. Lenders had to kind of assemble an entire tech stack to center their operations around, and that led to a lot of sort of friction in the process. And let me tell a little story about that actually.
Sure.
It was back in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. One of my friends was looking to purchase a home, and he wanted to take his business to his small local credit union, right? And so first he had to go to their website. He wasn't yet a member with them, and so he had to log into one of their platforms, create a profile and a login to fill out a membership application. And then after the membership application, the credit union used another solution for an account opening application that he had to fill out. And then there was another portal that was used to transfer funds from an external account to initially fund his share in a checking account that he was creating. And then he had to create another login to access a mortgage point of sale system. And then after all of that, he finally gets to fill out his mortgage application. And it was just an old kind of form-based, dated-looking solution. And at the very end, after he had spent all that time going through 4 different systems, when he finally hit submit for that mortgage application, it aired out on him. And so he was just so frustrated after all of that he gave up, and he ended up taking his business to a large bank that had a much slicker solution. And he was concerned because, remember, volumes were so high at that time that
Right.
And he had a tight deadline on his purchase contract. He wasn't confident that the original credit union would be able to take his business after what he saw from that initial point of sale solution. He wasn't confident that they could, give him an approval in time before the contingency date. And so, yeah, he ended up taking his business elsewhere. So what I'm seeing is a lot of kind of consolidation of the technology. You're seeing more and more tech providers bring in more services in-house. So now, you have the LOS not just being the LOS. They also have a native product and pricing engine. They have a native point of sale system. They might have account opening in-house as well. And so you're starting to see more and more services under one roof to give lenders the assurance that there's going to be that seamless connectivity that reduces and eliminates the friction throughout the entire process.
Well, and I grin when you said that because I used to be the chairman of the board of a credit union here in Michigan for 11 years. And it's a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
The technology, it's not that the credit unions are a bad person or that company didn't want to get his business, but because you had the disparate systems and there wasn't just one seamless flow of being able to collect the data, what's one of the most frustrating things? You call in or you start logging in and trying to do all that, and they jump around and then they're like, all right, I just transferred you to another department. Tell me all your stuff again. I'm like, are you kidding me? You need my name and you need my address and all that. You should have that. So I love that story because I think it helps, and everyone can, really understand and see that because they've experienced that in one aspect or another. So as we're talking tech, you had mentioned, a point of sale. Tell me, in today's market conditions, right? Volumes are down. Lenders are trying to cut the cost to originate, right? Those continue to rise. Why is a point of sale so critical to the success of not only the borrower interaction, but what the lender can actually deliver?
Sure. And really, and when I look at my roadmap too, these are kind of the ideas that I have in mind, sort of the pillars. I'm always trying to think about how is what I'm trying to build going to increase the speed at which this transaction can be completed, or increase the demand with which my products have within the market, increase the reach or broaden the reach that can I access more and more borrowers or applicants? And then are my solutions kind of interconnected? And so thinking of the point of sale system in particular, that really kind of touches on all of those pillars. The point of sale is going to help you as a lender close loans faster ultimately, because an applicant is able to do things on their schedule at their convenience. It could be late at night, your business could be closed for the day, but then they could be at home filling out an application on a Friday night, getting a pre-approval letter, and then using that when they're going to open houses the next day on Saturday. So it's really just increasing that efficiency. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that the point of sale system, it's really the introduction that the applicant has to you as a lender. It's where they're forming their first impression of how the rest of the transaction is going to go. And going back to my story earlier, it created a negative first impression with my friend. and he took his business elsewhere because of it. And that might have ended not just that transaction, but a lifetime of business between that consumer.
And the average borrower is going to get 7 to 11 loans over the course of their lifetime. If the average loan is 350 to 400 right now, you're talking about millions of dollars that were left on the table because of that bad experience. You also mentioned one other key term that I think is critical, because I think when a lot of people talk point of sale, they just talk about the shiny object. How does it look and feel for the borrower? And while that's important, if there's not efficiency on the back end of that process, and it still takes 45 days to close the loan, if they still have to jump through a bunch of hoops, if it's difficult for the internal staff to use and they can't deliver on that experience, then it wasn't a great borrower experience at the point of sale to begin with.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I actually have kind of another story that relates to that. Another friend was applying for a home, submitted the application. He never heard back from the lender. He waited 3 or 4 days, never heard back after he submitted through the point of sale. So obviously there was kind of miscommunication between the technology and the back end system. And then finally he called the mortgage lender, and then it turned out that there was a storm in the branch that in the geographic area where the branch was located. And so the whole office was shut down. The staff wasn't working from home. They weren't equipped with technology to work from home. And so, no one was available for 3 days to get back to him. But then there was automation in place too that automatically, he was only looking for a pre-approval letter. He wasn't, he didn't have an address yet. The automation on the back end automatically converted that lead into a full application. And then they told him, oh, well, we can't generate a pre-approval letter from once it's a full application. It needs to be a lead file. So they made him go back, reapply a second time through the point of sale system. And it was just a mess, right? And so you could imagine there needs to be a seamless interplay between your technology and your tools and your automation, and then your staff as well. And I think so many people forget how, or so many organizations forget how people fit into the technology and the automation plays that they're making. And they fail to account for the fact that there's going to be times when technology breaks down, and, what are the backup plans? Can we continue our operations when the technology, in the instances where it fails? And it is going to fail at times.
Right. Great points there. So we have these new generations coming in, whether it's millennials, Gen Zs, and what I would call the Amazon effect, right? Amazon right now, if I order a book on Amazon this morning, I expect to get it by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And if I don't, I'm kind of pissed off. And that's only a $15 book. So you would think that if I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a mortgage, I would be able to get pricing. I would be able to get a very quick response to what I'm trying to do. Talk to me about with whether it's millennials, Gen Zs, and this instantaneous now mentality. How does pricing come into play, and why is it so critical to deliver it at this stage?
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because, we talk so much about millennial and Gen Z, but one of the interesting things that I noticed kind of in the wake of the pandemic was that it transformed behaviors across generations. And so you maybe had older generations that were reluctant previously to adopt certain technology, but then the pandemic forced them to change. It forced them to bring more of their business and their lives online. And, I saw, I have older parents, and I thought that they were very set in their ways, could never change. And I was shocked at the things that, I'd be on the phone with them, and they'd tell me about a new app that they had discovered during the pandemic that was making their life easier and more useful.
And the Zoom calls because they wanted to see their grandkids and wanted to see face-to-face,
right.
So I agree with you. I think that really helped accelerate some of this. But now let's go into some of the pricing things as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So you mean some of the instant decisioning and yes. So with that, and again, I think the point of sale, embedding pricing into the point of sale, I think is important. The Amazon effect, folks want to be able to supply their information. They want to be able to do their own research without feeling like maybe a salesperson is trying to influence them one way or another. And so I really think it's key that lenders provide their customers, their members with the tools to sort of do their own research, but you don't want to sort of delegate that responsibility out entirely. Like I think you need to make the tools available for there to be a seamless experience for the borrower to self-select the products that they're interested in. But then at the same time, from the surveys that I've seen, the research that I've done, with something as large and as critical as a home purchase, with how much emotions are involved, how much uncertainty there is, especially for a first-time home buyer, they want to be able to talk to someone. And so while you need to give them that instant gratification of being able to fill out the application at their convenience, being able to do their own research and maybe select their own product, I think you also need to make sure you integrate your staff into that technology so that they're there to kind of serve as backup, to answer any questions, to help them navigate. And that may change over the next few years with kind of the rise of generative AI and chatbots. The technology, it's very promising. It's not quite entirely there yet. And even when it is there, I think there's going to be a segment of people that always prefer to talk to another human being, right, as opposed to talking to a chatbot, even if that chatbot is very capable.
Great points there. Let's talk a little innovation. You've been there at Meridian Link. You've seen so many new innovations come and evolve, and you guys have done a lot of innovating. You've automated things. You've developed API suites, no-code screen builders. Tell me a little bit about some of those innovations and kind of your guys' thought process of, why it's important to continually innovate in this market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I first became the product leader about 8 years ago for the organization, I distinctly recall an early conversation that I had with a prospect at the time, and they were unhappy with their current LOS solution. They felt that they had outgrown it, but at the same time, they had invested, literally 6-7 figures on trying to customize that platform, paying consultants, tons of SOWs, and they were absolutely terrified of. They wanted to leave, but they were terrified of the prospect of leaving at the same time. And it really reminded me of someone stuck in a bad relationship that they just can't get out of, right? And so I took that early conversation to heart, and it kind of became, I made it my mission. And so really, one of the reasons I get up each morning and I come to work and bring my passion is that I'm looking for ways to democratize software, to make it accessible to the masses, to empower lender self-innovation. And so I've dedicated the last 8 years to building up a suite of tools within our LOS that allows lenders to innovate at their own pace. So things like unlimited custom fields, being able to design your own screens without any coding experience, and you plug in those custom fields into it. A workflow and automation system that's rules-based that you could configure at any time. It could be your system admin doing it. It doesn't, you don't have to put in an SOW with us to do it for you. And then, of course, APIs and webhooks that allow our system to be easily extensible, both for our vendor partners as well as for our customers who may have their own development resources on staff as well. And so really my goal has been to create a platform that's purpose-built for lender self-innovation. And of course, we're going to continue innovating as well. But if a customer needs something that we don't have today, rather than them submitting a change request and waiting for me to review it, find a spot for it on my roadmap, I want to make sure that we have the tools in place that they could easily add a custom extension without having to, pay a consultant 5-6 figures to do it for them.
Great insights there. Tell me a little bit. I know we're winding down. You are a wealth of knowledge and expertise. You are welcome back anytime. But tell me a little bit then about the Meridian Link One platform. Why that's so critical. I know you hinted on it early on of, people and all the disparate systems. But tell me a little bit about Meridian Link One.
Sure. And that's something we're all here at Meridian Link just so excited about. I think one of the things that's unique about Meridian Link is that we have both a mature consumer LOS solution and a mature mortgage LOS solution under one roof. And that's pretty unique out there. And for most of my history, to be honest, they largely ran as independent sort of business units. But back in 2020, we started to take a look, and we noticed that a disproportionate number of the banks and credit unions of our system actually used both solutions rather than just using one or the other. And so we started poking into why. And those depository institutions, they were really hoping that by going with a single vendor that offered both, there would be some synergies there. It would bring down some of the silos that traditionally exist between the consumer lending division and the mortgage lending division. And so we spent about a year interviewing some of our customers that used both solutions, coming up with ideas for how we could connect the two platforms together. And I made that my roadmap priority back in 2020. And the market has responded extremely positively to it. It's really just resonated with lenders out there who want to tear down those information silos, want to make their staff more efficient. When a customer or a member walks through your door or they submit their application online, they're not really privy to how the structure of your organization works. They don't really know that there's a consumer division and there's a mortgage division. They just see you as the financial institution, and they want you to help them regardless of which door you come in through, right? And so kind of the goal with Meridian Link One is that the more and more Meridian Link solutions you sign up for, the more and more value you're going to get out of it. We're kind of transforming it. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. There's synergies there. So 1 + 1 now equals 3 or 4. The more products you sign up with, the more value you're going to get.
I love it. You have a wealth of knowledge and expertise. Like I said, you are welcome back to the show anytime. If somebody wants to find out more about this, if they want to find out more about your upcoming user conference in the new year, what's the best way that they can get a hold of Meridian Link?
Yeah, so definitely visit our website. We have a lot of information about how to reach our sales team, as well as you could see who our vendor partners are, as well as register for our user forum, which is now open to more than just customers as well. So it's really an exciting event. Tons of great sessions there. You'll learn a lot from it.
Fantastic, David. I can't thank you enough for being a guest on this episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast.
Thank you, Michael.